Do I need black skin to be a black activist, black hoodie, black mask, black fist? Do I need black friends to be a black advocate, even though where I was grown barely had black kids? Today I want to talk about Black Lives Matter and why I think it's a big mistake. I need to start by saying that there are two Black Lives Matter. There's the movement, which I completely agree with, and there's the branding, and that's what I think is the mistake. Let's talk about the movement first. To put the movement in context, I think we have to discuss this troubling idea of what it means to be black. And I think it's troubling because blackness in America was originally defined by white people, by slave owners, and it was really to determine who got rights and who didn't. And they went with this philosophy that was called an ounce of blood or a drop of blood or something like that, which basically I think it was like 1/16. If one of your great-great-great-grandparents was black, then you were considered black. And it's sort of like you were tainted by it. So I think it's troubling that black identity was originally framed this way to begin with, but that's a different conversation. Black Lives Matter, the movement, is fundamentally about acknowledging the fact that black people have never had a fair shake in America, and it's about changing that. It's about addressing racial inequality, it's about civic justice, it's about racial justice, and all of those things are things that I completely agree with. All those things are things that I completely agree with. What I find interesting is that I know a lot of people who are middle class, middle America, middle-aged white people who live in Trump country. And they actually agree with me. And they, like me, were disgusted by the George Floyd murder, by Ahmaud Arbery, by all these things. But they aren't fully behind Black Lives Matter, the movement. And I got to thinking, wondering why. Here's what I came up with. It is interesting that we tend to lump all white people together, while pretty much probably all white supremacists are white, not all white people are white supremacists. And I think we need to really make sure that we distinguish those things very carefully. When a normal, I say normal, just a regular white person, hears the framing, Black Lives Matter, I think a lot of them wonder they wonder this: how do the people behind Black Lives Matter feel about me? And they say, where do I fit in this movement? And if they say, do all lives matter, if they ask the question, or if they make the statement, hey, don't all lives matter, and they're attacked for it as white supremacists, you could see where that might entrench their position, where they say like, oh geez, like maybe these Black Lives Matter people actually don't like me. They actually don't think I care. They actually don't want my support, and they don't want me to be involved. So you can see how that can be divisive from the very start. Meanwhile, what that does is it provides cover for the white supremacists to duck behind all the moderate white people who would otherwise support. And so by lumping them all together, you basically we enable white supremacists to sneak in there behind the moderate whites. If you imagine the people, if we were to start the movement Black Lives Matter, or if we were the leaders of Black Lives Matter, or how do I put it? If the leaders of Black Lives Matter were looking at this at the start and said, how do we brand this in a way to be most effective? Well, ideally, you want the most people behind the movement as possible, because we live in a democracy. A giant mass of people all clamoring for change are more likely to affect real positive change than a smaller group of people. By using the phrasing Black Lives Matter, it's pretty narrow, it's very specific, and I completely agree with that concept of it, but it excludes everybody who's not black from the conversation. And I understand that a large part of the conversation is about blackness and about black people and the injustice that they've suffered. That's all very valuable. But what you have, though, is when somebody responds and says, all lives matter, you're left in a position where you basically have to say yes, because of course all lives matter, and then you have to say but. And as soon as you say yes, but, you're all of a sudden taking a movement which is all about progress, and you're on the defensive. So I think it's actually less progressive than it could be. Let's explore an alternate reality where the movement is called All Lives Matter. And now every time a person of color or a black person is killed or suffers injustice because of their race or their identity, you say, George Floyd's life matters because all lives matter. Breonna Taylor's life matters because all lives matter. And all of a sudden you have this umbrella, the high ground, where nobody can refute that. You're in this position where nobody can refute that without showing their true colors. Like, nobody can say all lives don't matter because they would just look like an asshole and be wrong. So I basically think that Black Lives Matter, the movement, has given up a giant opportunity to rally and gain the support of a lot. I'm talking millions of more people, just simply because of the branding being too narrow. I find that disappointing, because if you are rallying literally millions of people to come out in the streets and behind this gigantic, very important movement, then ideally you want to make sure that you get the best return for that effort. So, my personal opinion is I think they should rebrand. People rebrand. Companies, brands rebrand all the time. I think it's completely possible to achieve this. And to take all lives matter, why not, right? Take it. But I don't know if that would actually happen. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to see what you think. Please be respectful in the comments. Like if you like the video, share if you feel it's worth sharing. And if you want to support the series, you'll notice that I haven't monetized the channel. So if you do want to support, there's a link in the comments, the description. But by all means, don't feel pressured. My name is Rocket. These are my reflections. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Love hard and live well.